4 overall if they're ready for it, and they are, because the initial ban here from Elements is Rammus.
Okay, as the reply is niddly from Splyce. No real surprises here. Maybe the Karma, although we have seen her a touch over in NA. She has been tweaked on this patch.
Karma ban.
Oh, you don't like the Karma ban?
I mean, now you have to win. If you're Splyce and you ban Karma and you lose, then you have issues.
So what is left up then? Kalista, Braum is banned. So Kalista's up, Alistar's up.
Corki's up as a power pick. There's obviously super high value now in that Alistar you mentioned, because 2 supports are out. You can play some Braum into it, Bard into it rather. Elements.
I mean, if Splyce don't pick Alistar now, their picks and bans is very confusing.
Yeah, they should. Maybe they have a different strategy. I like the Corkis. I think you need to put Eika on a simple champion with high pressure, because he just simply hasn't been performing well, and Sencux seemingly so far is a better player overall. So I think Corki is a fantastic early pick. It does mean, however, that your bot lane suddenly is under pressure, because you have to play into Kalista, and Gragas is still open, so this is a really good reactionary rotation from Splyce.
Alright, so Kobbe's going to get his hands onto one of the most important AD carries in the current meta. Only 1 game played this split, it was a loss. And for Elements, with all the target bans on support champions, Thresh or Alistar would be sort of the top tier. Maybe Trundle you could throw in there, despite the fact we saw him a lot as a top laner in IEM.
You have to just go Alistar here, otherwise you're playing into a Kalista Alistar lane for free.
A few seconds left, Crepo. This little long hovers from both of these teams. LeBlanc's still up for Sencux. His real standout performance was on something like that, and it's the Thresh, so I can't wait to ask Splyce what they were thinking of picks and bans.
I mean,
I get
the composition is still, it's not bad, you know, you have just a snowball-y compositioning from Elements, which means they have to win lane, invade, get picks, use that hook and the cocoon for guaranteed crowd control, and maybe use that winning lane in the mid lane too for pressure. So they can, because obviously now Splyce is forced into Alistar, which is more passive in its approach, but has really good kill potential if the jungler shows up.
This just screams pick potential from Elements as well, especially if they give that Corki to Eika and decide not to flex it to MrRalleZ. Although MrRalleZ's most played champion is Corki, so there is a very strong possibility of that being the case. How does Splyce retire? They have to do Alistar and then +1.
Alistar +1, and it's not going to be mid lane, so it's going to Alistar +1 top lane. Blind Fiora, maybe. Rammus no longer here. Maybe just Alistar Trundle, also an option.
Safe instead.
Wow, they actually go for the counter pick in top lane. That is unconventional here. Sencux playing with a defensive mid laner that scales. This is the complete opposite story that we've seen from Splyce early in the season, but it may be the adaptation, because if we look at gold distribution throughout the entire season, Wunderwear has been getting all the gold but failing to use it. Maybe Splyce is finally realizing that they can't break the gameplay pattern, so they tailor their picks around it. Put a passive scaling mid laner on Sencux. I liked it when they did it with Lulu too, and they enabled Wunderwear to carry. He now gets the final counter pick.
It could be very, very good, especially when you consider Steve has a penchant for playing Fiora. With Quinn still up and available, there are some counter picks. But instead, we're going to most likely see this tank. A few seconds to go. Here we go. Poppy locked in, and the Lucian.
I like just super aggressive lanes. Elements are looking for something similar to Origin earlier today. 1-3-1, aggressive lanes, pickoffs, need to snowball. Splyce with a passive Orianna in the mid lane that's likely going to get pushed in early. We have Kalista Alistar that can get pushed in. Ooh.
Count.
If they actually lock in the Gangplanc, they're playing with fire, because if they don't get the lane swap, they will share a similar fate as Origin's opponent. They will get pushed in 1-3-1 the entire game. If Elements then plays to their win conditions, it is incredibly hard to get out of there.
Well, Splyce are going to have a few seconds left, 25 on the clock, before they decide on their last champ. Wunderwear has played a lot of champions. Fiora, Quinn, Tom, Nautilus, Lissandra. Like, both of these teams have actually struggled to find consistent successful champions. And they're just throwing everything against the wall to see what sticks at times.
Yeah, at the halfway point of the split, Splyce was the team with the significantly largest amount of unique champions picked. Like 5 or 6 champions ahead of most other teams, so it was definitely an indication of them looking for their footing. It's risky, Splyce. You're playing with absolute fire here. If you don't get the lane swap, I want to see how this game plays out. Elements strategically isn't the most cohesive team overall. Late game, GP Orianna deals a tremendous amount of damage, but it's the same as that Origin game, late game they have the damage, but it also has to be in a team fight.
Yeah.
So Splyce need two things to happen. They need to get the late game and they get a team fight. Elements win the early game and they can still combat that whole tactic by 1-3-1ing. And more importantly, we don't even see teleport here. Sencux, you need to change that into double TP if you want to play this style.
And especially when you consider all of the dash and mobility that Elements have, as well as the disengage from Poppy. There's a lot of challenges for Splyce to overcome. We'll find out how this early game plays out. There is no teleport for Sencux's Orianna.
Yeah, unless Trashy steps up and he finds one gank after the other. He breaks the early pressure and he annihilates maybe mid lane. But to gank at Corki is incredibly hard. Corki now playing with Exhaust in the mid lane too, so you need to find that one opening in the early game, otherwise things will get rough.
Early game importance for both Splyce and Elements. Elements looking to set up their lanes, get that 1-3-1. And we'll see if they can find the head-to-heads. Hashtag ELWin if you think they will be picking up the head-to-head victory 2-0. Or if you think the scaling comp from Splyce and the Yamato Cannon-led squad will be victorious. Hashtag SPYWin. Ladies and gentlemen, jump onto Twitter. You guys know exactly what to do, as does everybody here in Berlin, Germany with us. It is last game here, day 1 in week 8. And Crepo, we're loading onto the Rift.
We're loading onto Rift. Sheer aggression brought to the table here. Both supports running Ignite. No fancy exhaust shenanigans. No, we want blood.
Well, Doa would be proud. That is for sure.
Yes, he would.
And it's tough when you look at both of these squads because of the results earlier today. Origin and Fnatic, they've locked themselves into playoffs. So now Elements of Splyce are fighting for the safe spot. If we go on history, Elements are favored for number 7.
Okay, Elements were grouped, looking for a pick-off and a potential invade from Splyce. If they would have liked to go for the deep vision here in the lane swap.
And Kobbe and Nisbeth have already made their way up top with Wunderwear making it up to the tower. So in theory, they've snuck past the vision.
Yeah.
But Elements may have been able to sniff something out.
No, now it's a guessing game. It's like you don't know where the bot lane is because they could have ran top or bot lane. That's why I don't like this invade. I think the hold is good for Elements, but the invade actually gives away too much information.
Have spawned.
It's a complete guess, but at least if Elements go bottom lane, they lose the camp. It's a bold move, but they seem to have analyzed, guessed, flipped the coin right. We will, or wrong rather, because we will get the lanes up here for Splyce.
So this is good for Splyce. Not terrible for Elements, but now we get to judge both of these squads' lane swaps.
They're slow, behind in the tempo. Nisbeth's going to walk in, he's going to find the junglers. Kobbe will then return to lane. Jungler starts on the right side for both of these teams to play lane swap. Ooh, look at Steve, he's pathing back to the lane, and Gilius got level 2. So a little bit surprised here, Elements.
All right, let's see how Gilius responds. Steve instantly recalling in. The ward, I believe, just timed out as Wunderwear and Trashy were about to walk over it.
Yeah, but the double jungle is now faster on the side of Splyce. More camps taken, which means your top laner peels up quicker, and you can actually get the tempo lead. And it's a story. People are tired of hearing it, but just getting a couple extra seconds early in that lane swap will accelerate it. So, in addition to how crucial this lane swap is for these compositions.
Well, we have to then step back, I feel. And actually look at both Elements and Splyce, two teams who have not necessarily shown the greatest proficiency for the early game and lane swaps. I distinctly remember too much dynamic queue discussion at one point.
Yeah.
So now we get to see in the time off and watching more games, have teams begun to grasp how to make use of tempo.
There is so much information online available, vault of every single counterplay to every single part of this lane swap. It has been completely figured out, and Splyce here with that lineup, look at the amount of damage their abilities are doing to the creeps, while their actual auto attacks are going to on a tower. And only just now is Elements arriving at this bottom lane, so they guess the lane swap wrong, they don't get a camp on bottom lane, and they're half a tower down. Obviously have a slightly bigger wave, but the tempo advantage on the side of Splyce.
All right, so pressure on Splyce to make the next move. Gilius is invading on the right quadrant of the jungle. You can see that Trashy's already done the same and placed a ward behind.
Yeah, for some reason you are unfamiliar with this whole lane swap process. There's going to be a wave bounce towards Gangplanc. Wunderwear is going to farm. He has a ward available in his lane that was placed by the support that will last a minute. The second he sees the enemy bot lane approach him, he will then initiate the push and base. Now, Elements' bot lane is going to path in to put pressure on the new tier 1 tower that's available and push up Steve off this freeze. The result is obviously that Steve is desperate for farm. He's on 2 CS, while Gangplanc is farming up the Storm in complete safety. So that's the goal. The tempo lead manifests into your top laners getting ahead, and in some of these very snowballing matchups, that's exactly what you want to get.
So important for a Gangplanc. Needs to get, truthfully, to 2 items before he's completely online.
See that? He sees Lucian coming, he's like, okay, pop goes the wave. I no longer get punished by breaking my freeze. And the enemy duo lane is already bottom, setting up that massive wave to crash into the tower. Wunderwear is now 11 CS ahead and experience of Steve.
All right, so some kudos to Splyce. They've got steps 1, maybe step 2 under their belt. Now is when things become tricky, because now you have to adapt to what your opponents are doing, and you can see in the mid lane, Gilius is setting up, got some good vision, and there's a possibility of a dive, but I don't expect it.
Yeah, the thing right now is, as well, because this lane swap is so tailored and so obvious, these passive matchups can go even on CS. Corki can't destroy an Orianna. Corki can get the pressure on the Orianna, then snowball that, but there's nothing to snowball on, because everybody's on the map doing the exact same thing, pushing towers.
All right, Splyce will be able to secure tower number 2, a little bit ahead of Elements, but Elements have pulled more members to the tower, so that'll make up some time.
So there is a variation of play where you push off for tier 2, but I think the smartest play right here still is to bounce this wave for Wunderwear, then have Splyce rotate to the top, pick up the Herald, and then go for a long lane push here. Just get that Gangplanc as far ahead in farm as you can. And they make, again, the right choice. So Yamato's macro game, how he wants to play the game, is finally rubbing off on the Splyce players and Elements. They're just like getting this Rift Tower, but I don't think they will be able to use it.
We'll have to see how the next steps advance. So Elements pick up the Herald, Splyce will secure the Dragon shortly. Decent vision in the bottom quadrant from Splyce. That will give Wunderwear some additional time. He's already spotted MrRalleZ Lucian coming out. And take a quick glance at the CS. Wunderwear is plus 10, plus an additional level, and there's some farm coming to him, but Steve has finally got his hands on a wave up top, so he's also going to begin clawing back that deficit.
All right, so interesting choice here. We're gonna see Wunderwear being sent up because he can't farm 2v1 as well, and they don't want to let him die, so he's going back to the top lane. Bot lanes will match up. Finally, we will get any semblance of a laning phase, but we've had security in the early game already for yet again. We have to repeat that. This late game scaling composition here. Now, Fog of War is dangerous. Ward your brushes. Gilius gets spotted. Might be collapsed upon actually. Crash is waiting.
Potential headbutt pulverize. I think that's going to have to be the combo. Gilius has already been caught by the body slam, but Trashy's got no mana left. Gilius continues to run away. Wow, that was a lot of damage from Red. Instant exhaust onto Kobbe. The flay pulls him backwards. Kobbe has already used the flash, and first blood to Sprattel. That's not how I thought that was going to play out.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, golf claps all around from the audience, because bit off more than he can chew, I believe is the, I don't know what it is. The saying? Thank you.
English? Should we start casting in Zuid-Afrikaans? I mean, my Dutch is close to it.
I really hope not. I really hope not. No. My Afrikaans is very lacking, my friend. Kan nie Afrikaans praat hier. Luister? Right, that's all I'm going to give you. So,
I understood you.
And well, it's barely.
But yeah, that's not due to your Afrikaans.
Yeah, okay.
That's a different problem. But yeah, overall here, I actually talk about the game once in a while. Elements gained a lot of momentum again that they had previously lost. Splyce, little overstep. They did a good thing chunking out the jungler. They overstepped their bounds a little bit. Elements, again, they have plenty of times to get back into the game. Just like with Origin, when they played a similar composition, they have room for failure. Because they have the bigger spike in the mid game, because they have the side lane pushes, and because they have a 1-3-1 that they can still execute. How well have Elements watched that though?
Well, we will find out. Elements have got a 3-man stack in this mid lane. Gilius putting a good set of vision on the top half of the map that will enable both Eika and Steve to play around the respective halves of the map. And for Elements, they'll be happy enough just farming away. But I think some props to Wunderwear. He continues to stay ahead in CS, plus 20, and has been since the beginning of the game.
Generally hasn't met an opponent yet.
Of course, of course.
No, but this
kudos to Splyce,
This
right?
is kudos to Splyce. Exactly.
Yeah,
not only do they find the lane swap, they react accordingly to Elements' invade. They then play the lane swap beautifully in every single step of the decision, and that manifests eventually in like a 30 CS lead. Now we see Eika pick up the package. Splyce is ready. They have defensive wards. They are wary. Look at the respect Wunderwear is giving. He's letting his opponent farm because he knows he's under pressure. And
But
we'll call for desperate
don't challenge for red. Don't challenge for red.
Don't do it.
He's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. Wunderwear step forward and a big package is delivered. The barrels are chained and red buff, I think, was secured by Gilius. Wunderwear burns his flash to get away.
I mean, yeah, you get the red buff here. So a little overstep, a little greedy. You want to just tilt his opponents.
Greed is not good, my friends.
Doesn't get you extra gold here.
No, not today. 10 minutes on the clock and even gold. All of a sudden, once the scripted nature of the lane swap is played out, Splyce's play is a little on edge, a little over-eager maybe.
That's the pressure just overall from this Elements lineup. They can force you into making mistakes here, but
I mean, Trashy
upon the picky.
Well, Gilius jumps out. And what goes up must come down. Very good cocoon onto Nisbeth, and there's support from Elements. Flash over the wall as Nisbeth.
Teleport coming in
to keep his beef secure. The flay is used. Fate's Call. A flash from Trashy. The explosive cast can still be used, and Trashy's going to hold on to the cooldown. It actually was available, just opted not to use it. MrRalleZ now going to look for more. Kobbe is going to get pinned against the wall, and Splyce give up 2 kills.
Yeah, and where is Wunderwear's teleport? Where is, at least to scare them off and then cancel it? Where is his cannon barrage to slow these guys down? Splyce, they go for an aggressive pick-off against the pick competition. That is, you have to nail that execution, and you know you will not be able to burst the Elise. Gilius, as he repels up, Pulverize is missed on the floor. Watch this again. So they get Gilius. Barrel misses, Pulverize misses, he walks out. At this point, Splyce are absolutely screwed. We need to see a cannon barrage here to disengage. But now teleport comes in, Eika goes in aggressively. Alistar gets pulled out, but at that point, they're completely on the back foot. This is not the style they want to play. They're playing an aggressive early game with almost the most late game scaling competition. Crucial mistake from Splyce, but Elements. Look at all these aggressive flashes. They're really punishing Splyce where they need to. This is something previously they may have hesitated on. We saw 3 or 4 aggressive flashes here. So Elements are understanding the point of the game and getting some kills.
Exhaust is down on Nisbeth. Shockwave thrown onto Eika. An aggressive belt forward and a gentle love tap from Trashy. The cannon barrage comes down and Wunderwear gets a kill. First one for Splyce. Trashy actually helping Eika out. So there you go, buddy. This is what Nisbeth gets for wandering into the river alone.
Hey, Eika does drop down here to Wunderwear. That's big, because now he's accelerated to the Triforce. He will be able to start putting pressure on the side lane earlier against this Poppy, but still.
Especially because he's down in CS as well, technically. So that kill and assist actually going to put him marginally ahead. Enough gold for a ward.
Ward?
Yeah, they save lives.
Yeah.
Win games.
Because you can ward and then you can see the enemy coming in the jungle and choose not to fight them. And Nisbeth, I don't know what he's doing in the river here. Begs the question here. Sprattel's favorite food is not fillet of fish, it's fillet de cow. Sencux gets knocked forward. This turnaround here, so Eika is like, I got him, guys, I got him. Oh, no, globals.
Gilius has been very on point with those cocoons this game. 3 or 4 that's found targets in high pressure situations, and while we were in the replay, Elements to Doom's Eve, second time this game. I think it was picked up by Gilius. Yes, it was.
Yeah, so he's roaming with additional movement speed here in the jungle. Elements still complete control of the game, and I just want to, I know I tunnel on this concept, but if this was standard lanes, Splyce would have been in this position from minute 1, and they would have had so much pressure on them. So many games today, we've seen compositions that stand or fall by a lane swap. Either they get entirely annihilated, or they just needed to survive, and it's such a risky drafting approach that can just cost you so many games.
Let's see if it costs Splyce. They're down 1,000 gold. Elements will have no problems securing their first dragon. 2 relatively early dragons, actually. 13 minutes in and 1 apiece for both teams. But look at Wunderwear. He's managed to shove that wave in to the inner turret up top, and the rest of Splyce are applying pressure middle and rotating.
Yeah, they're grouped. Again, this is exactly what we saw against Origin. Elements 1-3-1, split push, Splyce, team fight. They want to push in one way, create an objective for momentum, and then be able to rotate on the tower so they can at least trade. They want to fight in higher numbers here. Orianna Gangplanc, extremely strong team fights.
Let's see if the ball delivery system of Alistar or Gragas can be used.
Cowball. We need some more cowball.
The Cowabunga ball for Splyce to win a wombo combo team fight. The potential is there. 2, 3-man knockup, shockwave, cannon barrage, and that's it. That's a lot of squishy targets on the side of Elements. I mean, Runic echoes Elise. Yeah, you've got Poppy, but that's
the entire reason why Elements don't want to team fight.
Yeah.
They don't want to run into that scenario. If the ball delivery system works, it can maybe work on 2 people, while Elements are cross-mapping, you know, chipping away towers, vision, taking control of the map.
Team fight to win. Let's see if Splyce can set it up. I'm still relatively impressed with Element's vision. I feel like every time I look down on the map, there's at least 1 or 2 wards inside Splyce's jungle. Defensive pink ward in the try up top, some blue buff vision down bottom. It's not deep, but it's some information to work with.
As for Splyce here, defensive pink ward just hanging on here. We see another package. These are the really tricky moments here for Splyce, where all the pressure can make the wall collapse. The Coon goes wide.
Play does not. Death sentence available. Catches onto Sencux. Delivery from Eika and kill secured.
But hey, at least he's playing Ignite, so he doesn't have to worry whether he cleanses the hook or the cocoon or any other spell coming his way. He can just ignite the enemy and die. Isn't that fantastic, Trevor?
It certainly is. Sencux 0, 1, and 1. Sprattel and Gilius looking to apply pressure behind, and a 5-man stack from Elements.
And look, when he spawns in 14 seconds, he doesn't have to wonder, do I teleport back in? No! All you gotta worry about is just burning your opponent. Just like this tower is being burned down here in the siege from Elements. Find a pick, get on the objectives, rinse and repeat. 1-3-1 to open up the map again.
Well, very well played from Elements as the mid-game is rolling out. Twice now the package is available, and twice I believe was used for at least a kill. That time a kill into tower. So heads up play. And that's what matters. I mean, Elements have got the tower lead. So despite all of that early game advantage Wunderwear's built up, he's 500 gold up. Trinity Force just completed, so that's a big activation point.
Yeah, that's a spike
Eika
already.
is the same.
Yeah, Eika sitting on probably the biggest power spike here for Corki Triforce for his all-attack trades. And then obviously the Magic Pen boots here just to enable that poke. Chip away, force Sencux on the back foot. And this is what you see. Splyce are waiting for the waves to arrive. They can't actually aggressively push out. Then Elements layer in between those lanes. They litter the enemy jungle with some vision. Wards everywhere. They're in complete control, complete information. Then the only variable is their decision making, which has been a pretty large variable for Elements this season.
Yeah.
But they seem to have a decent understanding of how to close out here, how to accelerate their lead.
Yeah, definitely confident in proactive play. Once they got a couple of opportunities presented. Gilius once again moving in to clear out wards. Look at this. Destroying another pink, placing a pink of his own. Pushing the vision, setting up for this inner top turrets.
Yeah, because waves give you vision too. Whenever you push in, they're defending. You now have 20 seconds to do something on the map. And obviously that gives you time to get the deep vision. And then you can reveal one of your opponent. Then you want to collapse. You want to spread the net open and then get it stuck, you know, around one guy here in the jungle. That's a complete waste of a barrel for Trashy, but he's left with very few opportunities here.
Sencux gets jumped on. Steve runs him down, throws out the buckler.
I was watching that on my screen. The way that started was Sencux gets into a trade with Eika. Eika just exhausts. Sencux no longer has the damage. Ignite was on cooldown, and then obviously Steve pushed in the bottom lane. He came in now. We saw Wunderwear still have Cannon Barrage on cooldown. No teleport into help either, because he was stuck in the bottom lane. So Elements, they push out the lanes. Then while Splyce is dealing with the lanes, they get a numbers advantage anywhere, in the jungle, in the mid lane, to make a pick.
Make that pick count. There's no towers available just yet, but all the vision is set up for either another Herald or potentially a tower push. RalleZ is picking a fight with Kobbe, has the support of Sprattel. Predicted the flash, wasn't quite able to get the distance.
Yeah, the hop, didn't think of the flash. Either way, just almost there. Going flash for flash on the Kalista is still worth it though. You have to go for that play and then pray that you get the highlight montage. If not, you still burn your opposing AD carry's flash. And that's what you're doing. Pick up, you don't get rid of their summoners. And look again, Elements 1-3-1, push all the lanes. When somebody's dealing with it, we can now see Steve peel off into the mid lane. We can see Elements slowly but surely taking these objectives because they always know exactly where Splyce is. And that's the danger of their composition.
Nif's lasagnas helping Elements find their footing. 6-1 up, 3,000 gold. I think it was the third Herald as well.
No abundance of cheese though in lasagna. Just clean, well played.
I think Vitality are lactose intolerant.
Can deal with the cheese?
Apparently not. But it's interesting seeing all the Rift Heralds because during IEM, I think it was... Oh, I can't remember where I read it, but I read somebody talking about how EU teams are a bit more infatuated with Rift Herald. I think it was Kelsey Moses saying it, actually.
Yeah.
And it just sort of got me thinking about it a little bit more because I somewhat disregard the Herald at times.
It's
and we're
because
seeing it now become integral.
We couldn't really see any value from it. It's like, okay, it gives you a buff to minions that then die into the tower. But in a lane swap scenario where EU teams were so far ahead of the curve already, they kind of incorporated that into like phase 3. So tier 1 towers trade, massive wave push that then gets accelerated with a Herald buff. You could sacrifice a dragon for that, but you still get the quicker tier 2 tower. Again, tempo means advantage, means time 1, which means pressure, which means eventually you get ahead. That's kind of the way you want to play it, and Rift Herald suits that beautifully. That's why we see increasingly more priority on that Herald being used for well-timed pushes with big waves.
Yeah, Cannon Barrage was used by Wunderwear down bottom. He defended the bottom inner turret, but Elements just say, peace out, bro. And they just go knock over the mid inner. So 4 towers down. Yep. Very, very good mid game. Dragon number 2 is available. This is going to help them in that 1-3-1. And look at all the vision to do this safely.
Yeah, Elements always have control of all the information here. So the only variable, like just we said earlier, is their decision making. And so far, they get the Herald, the tower. They get the Dragon with 2 people, peel off 2 more. They're looking for potential teleport in if Steve needs some help. But again, this is the execution phase. Now they go back to build up. Thin out. Splyce will be forced to spread out their resources too. They're playing a team fight composition. We said it earlier. And look, they just can't afford to split up.
Bottom turret, Splyce try to defend middle, arrival 8, lose that, lose Dragon, try to clear their own jungle, and now Elements just punish.
It just hurts to see this because it's how we lost so many games in Season 3. Because like, why aren't these guys team fighting us? We have such a good team fight combination. Like, yeah, maybe they should, you know? Have you heard about split push? Splyce clearly have not all their eggs in a team fight late game basket, but they forget that there's the first 20 to 30 minutes to be played.
And the thing is, Splyce actually committed to this very early on, right? That Orianna was second rotation, and then closed it out with the Gangplanc instead of maybe something that could have tried to challenge the Poppy, tried to handle the split push.
And Elements was ready for it early on too, because they had the option to pick Alistar, but they went for the Thresh, knowing that they just wanted to play more aggression, more picks. They didn't want to wait for the questionable late game shot calling. And yeah, props to them. They have improved in these 2 weeks.
Yep, definitely the case. And again, to remind everybody, these are the 2 teams that are currently tied in the battle for 7th place. Wunderwear not even going to chain the barrels together, unfortunately. I think Steve had just stepped out of range. And the turret is under pressure. There's some vision in the jungle as well.
His goal was not Steve, though. He wanted to get those minions that were right behind Steve. Just make sure that they hang on. But again, it's a familiar sight. I don't think Splyce even remember what the river looks like. I don't think they've seen it. Like, I know this brush. I've been in this brush before. It's my safe space.
Well, Elements don't care. They'll knock over anything in their path. Take a look at this. Eika actually used the package already. It was picked up a little bit ago. May have timed. Wave pushing towards Elements down bottom. So somebody's going to go deal with that. And that top inner turret is the last one that remains.
They need to force the Gangplanc ulti somewhere, and then they can attend Baron baits here. Look at Splyce here too. 1 blue ticket goes down. They likely will need to change for a 3rd one here, because every time, like every step they make, every move they make, every step they take, Elements is watching you with all the vision, waiting for you to step into your inevitable demise. Hook in face, cocoon, anything.
Anything that gets them the kill. But Splyce, they have to step into it. Bottom lane, bottom
Well,
wave.
they don't. They just lose Baron. You know?
There we go.
They don't have to step into it. They can also choose slow and merciless death by split push. You know.
Yeah. They omit to make a decision. Steve was sent to clear out the bottom wave and will try to put pressure on Wunderwear. Wunderwear's got the Essence Reaver second item. There's a little bit of debate around that. I remember some of our Australian friends upside down all the time think it was the best Gangplanc build, but that was a while ago.
Yeah, right now it has to go up to 3 items before you really get the value from it. They changed the calculation on that a little while ago, a couple patches down.
And also interesting that we're seeing Wunderwear and GP even after the nerfs in 6-4.
Spicy though, invoking the right to the 5th Amendment, just He's not doing anything.
Let's take a look. Trashy eats the Kalik. Body slams away. Element's very committed to defending that pink ward, at least for now. But they've not pulled Steve in. Steve backed away from Wunderwear.
Yeah, they need
potentially the TP.
They need Steve to tank the Baron. Gilius can do it for a while with some spellvamp, but Elements can't duel for the sneaky 2 or 3 man Baron, I feel, because they'll get chunked really hard. As I say that, they are going for the sneaky 2 or 3 man Baron. But let's see how long they can do it. Was I right? I love it when I'm right. You shouldn't do it because you can't actually tank it. Right now they lose all the momentum. The build-up from the last 3 minutes is wasted because they can't predict that Baron does damage.
Whoever would have known. Not Elements. Steve is backed away, forced Wunderwear out. Is very, very relevant as that tank. Sunfire, Frozen Fist, Spectre's Cowl. A lot of vision still for Elements to play with, so if Splyce stick around in this river, something they've not seen for a while, they could get punished.
Or we may see Fate's Call having been used here on Nisbeth, or at least an ulti to get out.
Well, there's nobody else to deal damage. Gilius did 30% Nisbeth alone, and now has the support of RalleZ and sprattel. Alright, Baron Dance. Is there enough vision remaining for Elements to pull this off?
First step is always the minions, so you see that Elements ping the top wave, they identify step 1 again, so while we're almost like making fun of them for starting Baron, the entire setup was good though. You have to repeat that. They have been prioritizing minions when they should. They have not been opting into these teamfights from Splyce. That's good. They're going for a collapse here though, because Gangplanc's in the bottom lane.
They certainly are. Steve comes in. I don't think he even had home guards. And the fizzle.
Yeah, this is where it all kind of starts breaking down. A little bit of a random teleport from Steve into the mid lane, while now Wunderwear has TP advantage and the pressure in the bot lane. So while RalleZ identified that, hey guys, we're 1-3-1, guess what, let's split push, Steve and the remaining parts of Elements weren't on the same page. They do get a rotation to top lane with that zone, but I don't feel that's worth the teleport right now, because Wunderwear is happy with how that played out.
Yeah, especially because Steve wasn't able to even really assist his team for any potential fight. Tower chunked down to about, what, 15%. Infinity Edge picked up for Eika in terms of itemization. Kobbe on the Kalista. Hurricane plus Blade of the Rune King. So he's fully activated.
Just did the math, it's actually close to 17% on that tower.
Okay, now you just go rub it in, right? Closer to 17%. Wow,
Trevor's hitting the cap of Crepo per week. He did IEM.
There was a lot of Crepo.
There's a lot of Crepo.
It was good. It was good. Sometimes. Mithy had to balance it out, right? Mithy and Dexter to come and balance things out. Dragon number 4 at 26 minutes, 2 apiece. 3 for Elements. I literally couldn't add 2 plus 1. I was looking at my...
I got you on the map here. Cocoon and Nisbeth. He'll be forced to get pulled out.
Didn't actually stack the Unbreakable Will, so good to see some communication between Kobbe and Nisbeth, but one Cocoon and the front line, or at least one of the front line for Splyce is now gone.
Yeah, so again, Vision leads into Poke. No answer for Splyce because they don't actually have the best hard engage. While they do have a lot of combination tools in these teamfights, Body Slam Flash is the only engage that is not incredibly telegraphed, because Fate's Call can be flashed, Orianna ulti can be flashed, Wunderwear's ulti is zoned, but it's really hard for Splyce to really find these teamfights, and as long as Elements respect that and don't opt into these fights, they're 1v1, despite having the lane swap upon them, despite making some mistakes, they're still in full control of this game. It is their game to lose.
We'll find out how they decide to play it out. We're approaching 30 minutes, and
I thought you were going to say, let's find out how. Like,
no.
Now time to find out how they're going to lose it.
I'm not going that hardcore. I'm not going that hardcore. But I know that some of the challenger teams will be watching this very closely. Copenhagen Wolves and Huma, their final next week.
Now we'll be playing here.
Some of these teams. MrRalleZ and Gilius didn't learn from their first attempt.
The problem is, you can sneak a 2-man Baron if you have like a lot of people in the mid lane, but because you're playing 1-3-1, if you're not showing in all 3 lanes, it's very easy math for Splyce to know you disappeared, and it takes you so long to finish that Baron that at least one member from Splyce can enter the jungle and go for the ward. So ideally, if we want to see that, we want to see both lanes pushed in, retreat to the Baron for the bait, then give Splyce the hesitation. Do we ward in slowly, face check, risk losing the Baron, or do we instantly face check but then risk getting caught out?
So that question will be answered soon, because Steve will have his teleport available. So at least the support of their split pusher can get pulled in, something they didn't have for the 2 previous attempts. And Splyce care not for Elements because they've grouped up 4 men in the middle lane. Will take
Ross
that
to go
out
top
of
right now.
tower.
He can't peel back to the fight. Elements going for the collapse when they can simply take top lane inhibitor. They want to force a fight.
And they have found Trashy. Cannon Barrage comes down, a 2-man knockup as Kobbe and Nisbeth are on the retreat. Unbreakable Will is available, as is the Fate's Call. Gilius ramps up into the wall. Fate's Call to pull backwards. Shockwave only jumps onto Steve as it was flashed away from the rest of Elements. That is Steve down. And instead of going for the safe play, Splyce are winning a team fight. It's what Splyce wanted. It's what their team comp was designed to do, and it's a 3-for-0.
And it's literally one guy in the cover who's like, woo, kills Elements. Just through the game. Mental facepalm here. They had all the options to 1-3-1. Fantastic fight by Splyce. Don't get me wrong. Because people are like, Crepper, why are you whining again? It's just, it hurts me. I can't see it. It's just they recognize the play the entire game as they get the Baron right now on Splyce. Elements have recognized the one playstyle that got them ahead. The entire game, 1-3-1, split up, go for towers. RalleZ right here, top lane's open. Elements do not have to fight this. Right here, they do not have to fight this. At this point, I repeat, they do not have to fight this. But Wunderwear comes in, keep your eyes on Sencux. He holds his ultimate on Orianna long enough to get zoned. The barrels come in here, one guy flashes, but Steve gets caught out. He dies to lost the Ignite arrow as well. Eika Valkyrie into the team, I believe, or something happened. He got knocked in by Nisbeth. Anyway,
barrel, I think it was actually.
Yeah, he ended up dying there, and then suddenly, guess what? Splyce are running a teamfight competition. Maybe that's why they haven't fought you the entire game.
Here's the observer showing that Gilius was squashed under the boot of Splyce, and after being 5,000 gold down, the game was in Element's hands. It was a choice that they opted into. Even with a 5k deficit, Splyce win the team fight, taking in a turret, and now on the cusp of equaling the turrets killed. Use that as TP.
Yeah, Turbo Puppy is ready. Again, does not mean that Splyce have won the game, because Elements have answers. Because Wunderwear is going to the bottom line right now. There has to be a ward somewhere. Let's see, where can Elements teleport to?
Baron Pits, Turbo Poppy's coming in, but he's got a long distance to cover. Wunderwear available for Wunderwear as well. The aggression comes forward, no pin onto Kobbe. Cannon Barrage is out, Splyce are peeling away. A lot of ultimates available as Elements are under the tower. Wunderwear's hold his nerve and has not teleported in. Defensive hold for Elements.
Yeah, Turbo Poppy comes in from the flank, but then comes from the front anyways.
Runs out of gas.
Yo, Splyce, they stay calm, they don't overcommit in the chase because Wunderwear at no point channeled his own teleport. They're now in a 1-4 split push with Baron buff themselves. And they're chipping away 1 tower, 2 towers. They're looking to get that Baron power play up to 6,000 here. 6,200 gold by now. Massive Baron power play.
Exceptionally good for Splyce. And you know, they've actually held their nerve on ultimates a lot. Now that's a weird thing to say, but it ended up paying off in that previous team fight that allowed them to win it.
They understand that they have a superior composition, and the only way they lose is if they majorly screw up their ultimate usage. Their patience was there, but the problem in League of Legends when it's as advanced as it is right now, and the execution of these strategies is just online for these coaches to learn. There have been so many examples of this exact stylistic mismatch being perfectly played by the 1v1 team. It is so risky to go for a teamfight composition. It is outdated almost.
Yeah.
It does work if the enemies actually teamfight you, which Elements did.
So Elements are now the ones that are 5,000 gold down. That gold graph has swung completely the opposite direction. And Splyce end their Baron power play with plus 6,000 gold difference, more than their opponents. That is a phenomenal turnaround. And now it's up to Splyce to demonstrate how they want to close the game out.
And when Origin earlier today was in a similar position, they had to scale and get their AD carry combination to a very large item point when they had 4 or 5 items. But MrRalleZ right now is stuck on 3 with a Bloodthirster in there too, so he's actually not doing that much damage.
Dragon number 4 would allow more tower dives, is secured by Element. Shockwave catches Eika, Exhaust comes out a tad late. Wunderwear doesn't care, he's not teleported in. Fate's Call's been used by Kobbe to pull Nisbeth out. They've traded a 4th dragon for an inhib.
Wow, Splyce with the execution there. Really good kite and peeling 4v5 to not die there. That's actually impressive though.
They're getting more. Wunderwear's played this one safe. They lost vision, I feel, of the Elements members. And
begs the question, could he have teleported in to straight up win that fight overall? Because if they can actually hold 4v5 by using those ultimates, chunking out, forcing some cooldowns, perhaps they could have turned it, but in the end, Splyce making calculated late game decisions here.
I'll talk about climbing the mountain of gold. The interesting thing that we're in now, Crepo, is despite this gold swing that you can see on the graph, despite the super minions up top, Elements are one dragon away from Aspect, which benefits their team comp. But in order to get Aspect, they have to potentially team fight.
Yes, but the way you go around that is exactly the entire way they've gone around it the game. You don't team fight them straight up. You push the lanes to force them back. Guess what? They're all pinned down in their individual lanes. Now that objective is opened up, you can liberate it, and then you can easily take it. That's how you deal with split push versus team fight. That's why split push is stylistically, in the early to mid game, the counter to team fight, because you have the stronger lane matchups. But we're adding late game right now, and these lane matchups are not as crisp and crystal clear anymore. Orianna late game deals tremendous amount of damage. Wunderwear is accelerated in this game. He has Flame Horizon Steve. You know, technically in lane swaps that doesn't count.
Yeah. Still doing exceptionally well. Sterix completed as we have a brief pause.
This is like a timeout when the coach steps in. Hey guys, strategy call. If only. That would be a cool concept. Halfway through a game, calling the coach and hey, what should we do?
Panic. But I like the concept that you had of the Dragon Pit. In order for Elements to get Aspect of the Dragon number 5, they need to liberate the objective.
You gotta go Kalista, free the dragons.
It's a well, it didn't work out too well for her. It's a great concept because it's something that Elements had the ability to do earlier in the game.
They have,
and then they, instead of liberating the top inner turret, they elected into locking themselves into potentially a promotion tournament spot because of that, you know, option or that decision to team fight. And a split-second call.
That's the thing with like scrims and lane swaps. The early game you can always play. Minute 1 to 5, okay, analyze. Scripted almost. You know, the decision 3 for lane swaps is out there.
If X, then Y.
Yeah, literally. You could code an ideal lane swap. But the later you go into the game, the more variables you have, and the harder it becomes to really copy that playstyle. And you need to not carry on to these like absolute decisions, but it goes more about philosophies. Like, what do we do in certain stylistic situations? And that's when we talk to Prolly a lot, actually, from H2K. He's like, when I watch some play, I go talk to my players, and I make sure they figure out why they need to do something and why this happened. I don't care if you missed that CS, because that's up to you. You know that you need to get the CS. But you go holistically, you go
philosophically.
Yeah, that word.
I got you.
You just talk about general strategies, and that's what Elements is lacking in the mid game, because they seem to have mapped out early to mid, but mid to late, they're still struggling.
And that's something that Prolly tries to imbue in H2K. Yeah. Is like, if a player doesn't understand, it's my fault. And if I explain it different, they still don't understand, it's my fault. Yeah. I've got to find a way to break through. Guys, there is a problem with regards to Sencux at the moment. Apparently it's because he can't move. I don't know if he knows he's been cocooned. We will find out as the guys are looking into it. But we've got a replay of that last dragon fight where Wunderwear elected to continue pushing top lane.
Yeah, so
talk
let's
me
see.
through what you're seeing here.
Is there any? So he could technically ward TP in to go for the 5v5 fight. It's hard to force it here. That hook goes wide. This here, the turn here with the ulti here. Trashy does get caught. He has to flash out, but Sencux steps forward as his team is on the defensive. And that's what I like to see. That means Splyce's team fighting is solid. Because if Sencux actually steps backwards there, Trashy could be sacrificed and engaged on. But he steps in when his teammate needs him to step forward for zone. He gets the aggressive ulti onto Eika, and then obviously the 4v5 plays out with Wunderwear taking down that inhibitor. And right now they were in a split push. They're setting up again. So Splyce really understand these team fights.
Yeah.
It's just a big leap to take to get to that point.
Yeah, you can't run the risk. Survive 25 minutes with Gangplanc Orianna, arguably maybe getting 2 items Kalista, then decide to play the game back. Now it's working somewhat against Elements, because Elements opted into that. They went for the fight, that old school way of thinking, so to speak. But for Elements, they're one dragon away from Aspect.
Yeah.
How important, I mean, will Aspect win the game for Elements? Is it that big?
I mean, you gotta look at what does Aspect give you. It gives you a burn in these fights, so it can help you in team fights only if the team fights go long, which they have. Like, we see these decisive team fights where Splyce, why do they win? Because they hold their ultimates long enough. But we have champions like Lucian and Corki that can poke away. Steve doesn't really poke, but he survives long enough. Then all these additional bonuses from Aspect do carry in, because not only do you get the burn, all your initial bonuses get double too, so you have so much value from that 5th dragon that could actually lead to a teamfight win here for Elements, because the amount of stats it gives you will nullify the gold lead that Splyce currently hold.
Yeah, and the team compositional advantages in some way if those fights continue to play out. So you can see the QA, they are on stage. I've just reached out to Sencux, and I'll get you an update as soon as we can.
Yeah.
Itemization, nothing really super stands out except for the fact that Wunderwear has just got so many toys to play with. Sterex, Essence Reaver, Infinity Edge, Trinity Force. I mean, that is a terrifying Gangplanc. If he manages to connect any barrels at all, those very, very squishy members of Elements are just going to get, well, deleted.
Definitely. We actually have the time now to look at some of these like crucial phases of the game. I believe we have the teleport ready too, where we can take a look at potential play that Splyce could make as the logo transition on the screen. So here, if you want to flank, you got to go up here, Steve. You got to go behind. So there is no point in flanking to only then knock on the front door. Just walk from base if you want to do that. So Steve completely screws up his flank here. He had the opportunity to go beyond the enemies, pop the W. That means Alistar can't actually combo you, because you will only combo you if you're in Q range, in pulverize range. That means Elements could have collapsed 4v5 here. So that was a potential game-turning play here that Elements neglected to see. And it goes back to what we were saying. Early game decision making, good. They understood their roles, but late game, they don't follow the same philosophy overall.
And also some credit again to Wunderwear. The teleports that we have seen from him have been impactful. 2 or 3 times he's held his TP but secured objectives instead. I'm looking at my screen really quickly. Yeah, that inhibitor is still down. So thanks to that dragon replay we showed you a few minutes ago, it was enough to break open the base.
And Eika is right now in base 2. You guys can't see this, but he's at the verge of picking a package. So we're in the middle of a bit of a standoff here in the jungle for people that forgot what it looked like. So if Splyce forget that package exists and they kind of commit to the team fight, we could see Eika surprise, because in these small corridors, these choke points, package late game deals a tremendous amount of damage overall.
That's where Elements want to hold them. That's where Elements want to fight them, and that's where Elements want to try pick up 300 gold for every kill and stop them. But
deep.
Yeah, I was trying to channel my Leonidas. It didn't quite go the way I was hoping, but yeah, just
the 300 reference. It all starts
exactly.
seeping in. It takes a little while here.
Yeah, I know. It's an old one. It's an old one. Golden oldie.
And sadly, there was never a sequel.
Yeah, that's actually true.
They totally did not make a second movie
no,
of the 300 series. Sadly, it ended after 1, right?
It really did. It really did. Update as well, guys. You can see the technicians on screen. They are busy working with a movement-related issue on Sencux's machine, and we'll give you an update as soon as we get something from the QA guys. But yeah, Splyce versus Elements, both teams at 4 and 10. The winner of this game will hold sole position of 7th place. The interesting thing is, if Splyce close the game out, they are then 1-1 in head-to-head. So if there is a surprise or an upset from Elements, there's going to be a tiebreaker for 7th.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Love me some tiebreakers. It's incredibly hard to hear because our in-house audio is echoing and it's tilting my life right now. Because when you're saying it, everything I hear in double, so bear with me.
It's so nice, Crepo.
You know what? I have a solution for that.
Twice.
Let's just go to the analyst desk. I think they can talk about it.
Oh no, we have to go to the analyst desk. That means something is still not fixed. We are finding out, and we'll get back into the game as soon as possible. However, we've just seen what 20, 30 minutes worth of a game, and you wanted to talk a lot about lane swaps in this game specifically, even though what happened after is also quite interesting. What did you want to touch on?
So we don't want to talk about the lane swap that happened in this game specifically, but more if it was the correct decision for Splyce to lane swap or not. So we talked about it, you know, their composition. Kalista, Alistar, they had the Gangplanc top lane. Do you guys think lane swapping here was the best decision, or was it better to take standard lanes to kind of slow down the game a little bit and get level 6 on Alistar and so on? Still back.
I think that since they had Kalista, Alistar, since I play Kalista a lot, I feel that her laning phase is really strong. So you should probably abuse it by following the 2 versus 2. I think they lane swap because they wanted to follow, which I'm not sure, but I think the best thing is to follow, and since you have the Alistar and the GP ultimate, you can easily slow push the wave level 6 and make a dive on your opponent.
And do you think, Chachi, when we have these lane swaps now, because it used to be, you know, you lane swap to avoid a matchup, and sometimes you could also slow down the game a bit, you know, back in the days when people were freezing waves. Now it's very fast-paced because, you know, you take tier 1, go down to the other side, you take another tier 1, and then you push for tier 2. So it's very fast-paced. When you have these scaling compositions, do you think lane swapping is a good thing? Or do you think it actually speeds up the game a little bit too much for these scaling comps?
It's a good way to skip the early game because you straight up jump into mid game, usually with lane swaps. But yeah, nowadays you do it to avoid certain matchups. But in the current meta, I feel like there are no super bad matchups, let's say for top lane. Everything is playable, and it a lot of the time comes down to the jungler matchup. Because here they have Elise versus Gragas, and I feel like maybe they wanted to swap in order to avoid the early pressure that Elise can create and like invading the Gragas, putting some pressure on him. So I think maybe that was the main reason, because I feel like Alistar GP is so much dive potential for bot lane that it would be generally worth to keep the normal lanes. But if they are afraid of the jungle matchup, that's the only reason I see behind this swap.
After the early game, though, Elements got really far ahead, and you mentioned the Elise versus Gragas matchup, and we saw a lot from Splyce that they were invading really riskily in the middle of that game and getting caught out, which gave Elements a lot of kills. What does that say to you about the disconnect maybe between this is what we want to draft from Yamato and this is the way we want to play?
It's something I feel like we have seen before from Splyce, where they have all these fancy compositions in mind. So it looks very good on paper when they draft it, I think, for the team, but then in-game they kind of fail to execute the strategy. Do you guys think that's on, is that on the players? Is it on the coach maybe? Be like, you guys need to do this, and this in-game to make this comp work? Or is it more for the players in-game, the shot callers, to kind of make sure everyone understands early game, mid-game, late game for certain comps?
I would say it's more for the players, because there's a lot of adaptations that you need to do in-game. So even if the coach gives you a plan, you need to do this and this, it will definitely go differently in the game, and you will face a scenario where you will have to make the decision. And for example, here I think mid lane was pushed in for elements, and Corki could run faster than the Orianna, and that's why the invade of Splyce failed and elements got like 2 free kills. So it was a bad decision by Splyce here, but maybe they thought that invading here is good. They just didn't wait for mid lane to be optimal for them.
Yeah. Obviously, it's not easy to make those calls. We saw today in your game versus OG that you guys also had these very important decisions to make. How do you reflect on that game now? It was incredibly close, Steelback.
For this game, I think we had the game in our hand because I felt our draft was stronger. So we wanted to look to teamfight them. But we kind of misunderstood how to play the map, because we had double TP, but we got pressured on silence. So I think that was the main thing. We couldn't pressure the map properly, so they just kept on pressuring us, and then we had a fight mid lane. I remember that we won, but then we went for the end. We wanted to end the game, but we couldn't.
Kind of the same for me. I felt like we kind of slowed down the game at one point because we needed to push out top lane, but none of us really did that job. So we just got pressured in all the time, and we couldn't do anything for like 20 minutes, and then we just overforced team fights, I felt like. But yeah, and we could have won that game easily, I think.
I mean, you won the last team fight technically, I guess, before you won the team fight pushed in, you know, the long death timers everyone talks about in the community. Your guys' point of view, are the death timers too long? Are the towers too weak? Like, what makes the game, or what is it that people are complaining about? Is it a correct thing? Is it the fact that death timers are too long late game? Is that why we have some of these big team fights into an end?
I think the death timers maybe are a bit too long for late game, but in our case, it would have been better if it's a bit longer. We can actually finish.
I do hear that the players are ready, so we'll pick this conversation back up after the game because that's what we want to see, of course. So back over to our casters and the game.
Thank you very much, guys. It's always great hearing from players on the desk. As an update to the situation, there was a network-related issue that didn't allow Sencux to actually move or dodge the cocoon. He was caught out after speaking to the teams. Elements are going to allow Sencux to just back away and move out of the way because of the network-related issue that caused the problem. So we will be jumping back into the game. Sencux will be able to escape and move away. This tells me that as a team, Splyce were aware that the package was a thing. and probably why they paused, saying there is the threat of losing somebody, and they're going to get themselves set up. So we'll give you an update once we get back into the game. It should be very, very shortly. And Crepo...
That actually just happened. So there was a cocoon on top of Sencux, and there was a Thresh in flash hook range. That's why, obviously, it's very important that you need a network to step away from that cocoon. Interesting here to hear from Splyce, or from the guys from Unicorns on the desk, on why that lane stop happens. Kind of disagree with Steelback's point, but that's the beauty of bot lane matchups. Everybody always has an opinion of what wins 2v2. That's just the point where I really hope we can get some coaches inside, what their take is on that 2v2 matchup, what the pivotal reason was, were they matching, because all we can do is obviously speculate. I really hope some of these teams, coaches, will share their opinion later on what the reasoning behind the potential lane swap was. Doesn't matter now though, let's get back into the late game. Just tune in after the pause. Elements, good early game, 1v1 composition, 1-2 split. Splyce, their strength is team fighting.
And Elements opted into a team fight that allowed Splyce to secure their first Baron of the game. And that allowed them to accelerate ahead. A 6,300 gold power play, in fact, from one of those Barons. And this has allowed Splyce to be in control. 36 minutes up, all of a sudden it's Splyce with the deep vision and teleport available and super minions pushing in the top lane.
Yeah, super minions pushing in. Splyce are looking to set up Baron vision here. They have to bear in mind though that they're usually the only variable right here is minions and Baron. But there is that potential 5th dragon coming up for Elements that Splyce desperately wants to secure. But it may be a catalyst for a team fight on their end too. So very interesting phase here, crucial late game phase. And you get so little practice for this, especially on the stage, because scrims very often deteriorate into what we call in Europe a clown fiesta. You see teleport coming in here, flank here from Elements.
This time round, Steve does better, but Sencux has been able to flash away. All Splyce need is some cowball. Nisbeth's looking for it, but he can't find a shockwave opportunity. Fate's call is used. Nisbeth gets pulled back to Kobbe and lobs back out. Nobody goes down, and everything is thrown in.
Trashy fails the explosive cast. He knocks Eika out of the fight instead of in. Elements going for the force play, the team fight, but they have to respect the team fight potential from Splyce. But they play it well. They keep everybody alive. And they must have felt cornered, because if Elements want to opt in for a team fight themselves 5v5, it means they're running out of options.
2-minute timer before Dragon number 5 spawns for Elements, if they want it. And with Baron up and alive, what cooldowns are available for Splyce? Only the shockwave. A couple of flashes littered around on the side of Elements. Keeper's verdict will be available for Steve shortly.
Yeah, they need Nisbeth to get his Unbreakable back up, because otherwise he can't peel. He will fall over or get shredded like a piece of paper. He needs that ultimate to zone and buy some time, but Elements, they also need some time here because they need to deal with that massive wave on the Nexus Tower. Reaction from Splyce is to start the Baron.
The Winions working in favor of Splyce. That's one turret down. An inhibitor will be respawning fairly shortly. Splyce started to build up HP for Barons on the bottom left of your screen. 21 red stacks and a gigantic boot sends Nisbeth away. That tanking, peeling power is removed. So Shockwave pulls Steve backwards for a few seconds longer. The heal comes up, face of the mountain, saves his life for a few seconds longer before Kobbe takes him down. But crucially, Baron has been stopped.
Yeah, Elements buy some more time because this is about the 3rd or 4th time that Nisbeth has pulverized the floor under a repelling Elise. We can't point that out enough. That was big because it may have just been enough for Eika to flash in.
Eika does flash in, will not find the kill. He's caught out, finally gets one more tip, probably from the Gatling cannon. Baron once again has been stopped. Elements are playing with their lives. Rolls dashes forward. Dragon's up in 30 seconds. Baron is still alive and the inhibitors respawn.
Elements do the unthinkable from being Nexus Tower down 4v5 against a teamfight comp. They win that fight, they peel off, and they even get a kill. Eika with an aggressive move, something we're not used to seeing from him. At least not with success, but right now they're trapped in a pit.
Oh, definitely trapped for days. Sprattel is sent back after being caught up by the explosive cost. Eika will get caught mid-pulverized as RalleZ takes down Nisbeth in the back line. Eika and RalleZ looking for more. Wunderwear will look to blow the barrel up, unable to do so. The minions plus super minions take out the inhibitor in the top lane once more. It's a 4 for 3 at the end of the day. And the tower's under pressure.
Guess what though? Dragon's live. 2 AD carries are heading that way. Trashy's in the base right now, so Elements working with information. They're gonna get Aspect here. Question is how many members will get it. This is an interesting sequence of events here. Elements managed to hang on. Gilius should have been dead there. He should have been punished. He played it perfectly, but yeah, Nisbeth, that pulverized, we kind of have to go back and look at it. Such a crucial, it's a little thing you don't really notice, but at this point in the game, there's some questionable decision-making. Elements for going for that return Baron was so audacious. Perhaps is the word we're going to use here, but it pays off. RalleZ, late game damage. Approaching those 5-6 items. Still hasn't found the money to upgrade his boots. But poor times.
But we'll talk about that later. For now, Aspect on 3 members. Gilius and Sprattel were still down when it was secured, so Elements, based on members that truly, really want that, it is available. Sterex Gauge as well as the rapid fire cannon for Eika.
Alright, we need more Cobalt. We need it now.
Trashy gets caught by the death sentence. The hammer sends him away. That's a very good verdict. Fate's Call temporarily buys time, but Nisbeth opts into the retreat. Baron was already secured, and now Elements have Aspect plus Baron buff. They have stats for days.
Yeah, what an exciting finish here to that game, because it was a slow mid game with some back and forth, but Elements with some newfound tenacity pulls that out. Gotta give props to them to go for these decisions, because after you make a couple questionable mid game decisions, usually your reaction is to just, yeah, you choke, you freeze. You're like, okay, I don't want to be that guy that throws us the game with another bad call. And
Eika flashes a wall, stops Baron,
yeah,
and sets up the chain of events that give Element the proverbial lead.
That's so much pressure though, because I've been that guy that's made the bad call on Elements. It's not the one you want to be overall. Right now they have the Baron. They get the siege up here. No split though, so they're looking for poke with that Aspect.
A lot of damage. That was a decent dissonance onto Gilius. Orianna with a lot of ability power, over 600 right now. Gonna look to set up a shockwave. One good shockwave can still win Splyce a team fight, despite all the buffs.
Yeah, Elements maybe a little rash in their approach. They just want to chip away. They have rapid fire cannons though, so they have the siege, they have the range advantage. Look at the tower, just melt away. Obviously that tower burn is now doubled as well. Aspect infinitely stronger.
There's a gigantic wave pushing against Elements down bottom. Steve has a teleport available. Somebody will have to deal with that.
The game will maybe be over by the time that wave hits. Look at that split push. 4-1 initiated here by Elements. Split up Splyce. Don't give them, just watch the ball.
Sencux wants to, no, Sencux needs to connect for Splyce to have a chance. They were given a breath of life and an opportunity in the mid game. After Elements had such a convincing start, all of a sudden, Steve winds up the verdict.
Doesn't like that creep.
Does not indeed. Sent backwards. Inhibitor number 1 dropped. That will even out the supers in the top lane. Somebody still needs to deal with somebody, the wave down bottom.
Yeah, and look at it. Few hints of smiles on the side of Elements, and very concerned faces on the side of Splyce here. Feel the tension in the studio. RalleZ gets poked out, half HP, has to dash out. Momentum on the side of Splyce here, moving forward.
Let's have a look. Splyce know there's somebody dealing with that bottom wave. Steve will have to TP in if he wants a taste of the action. Recalls come out from Elements, and they're going to set up to defend. But Steve didn't actually, I don't know if he reset that wave.
No, he has not, because he was threatened by the potential rotation. Obviously, not much vision in the jungle. He didn't want to pull a SOAS where he goes for the wave. Once Origin started losing the game at IEM, he overextended, he got caught, and it snowballed. Really, the push that the opposing team was doing. So Splyce was ready to move on Steve. Steve recognized that, and he backed out. Didn't have to use flash or TP.
So clever plays then from Elements. They regain gold, the gold lead. However marginal it may be, Aspect has worn off, and Baron will be wearing off very shortly. So all of those additional stats that the buffs gave Elements have reset. In theory, giving Splyce the advantage in team fights again.
Yeah, but we're approaching the point almost where these AD carries hitting 5-6 items, and then it does equalize you kind of these late game champs, because Corki and Lucian singling out a single target, you can pop anything. At this point in late game, positioning almost trumps champion strength.
Yeah, not a lot of tanks on either side either. Tanky stats.
I mean, you still have that shield. You have to calculate that shield from Orianna. It's something deceptively strong, because not only does he give on shield, I believe just 30 magic resistance and MR2.
Plus 520 HP shield. Yeah.
Just get a couple of shields in these long drawn out teamfights. That's 1,000 health suddenly that you did not account for.
Yeah, and also some tanky stats being picked up for Gilius. HP from RalleZ, Randian's Omen plus Banshee, so deceptively tanky. Over 3,000 hit points. Splyce are grouped in the middle lane. Nisbeth still playing in the front line. Is that shield we talked about? It is gigantic. Yeah. Everybody needs more cowball if you're a Splyce supporter.
1 minute to Dragon.
Oof, does Steve push this out and then peel back? Is that enough to
Yeah,
liberate
Elements right
objective?
now, they use the pressure from the Dragon. They've conceded the vision, but you say like, you know what, we don't actually care about the Dragon control, you can have a Dragon. We rather use the threat of the 5th Dragon as an advantage and potentially out-rotate you. Let's see if Elements can stick to the strategy, which is split up the map. Maybe send somebody top 2. Just yield the Dragon.
Steve cancelled his recall, continues to push out that wave.
Elements losing control of the mid lane. They'll Splyce with the reaction and say like, okay, if you guys have the threat of the split push, we need to react immediately, force you back into the base. That's what they're doing. That's what Elements is reacting to. So both teams reacting to one another move.
Who will call their opponent's bluff first and commit to a decision? Steve recalled. Cocoon once again catches Nisbeth, and the culling drops him very, very low. Fate's Call. That is an important ability. However, it's not been used aggressively once. Steve is teleporting in, decides to immediately run away. That became so, so close. Keeper's Verdict can be used, and Dragon has spawned. The dance is on. Let's find out if Elements will commit for a fight. Splyce, they've started off. They've got the Rend plus Smite advantage in Splyce Court. It's secured. Only the second line for Splyce. Steve has found Wunderwear, pins him against the wall briefly, and the hammer was already thrown. Now Nisbeth's looking to re-engage, and the barrel comes out. Wunderwear's got Steve. Elements are falling apart. They're split up. They've lost Sprattel, and Splyce might be winning the team fight. Gilius drops shortly thereafter, and MrRalleZ is the last man standing.
That's it.
Elements committed to the fight, and Splyce should be able to finish.
Yeah, this is definitely has to be game. Wunderwear is going to base, get full HP, come back to the lane, and that team fight crucial. Elements step into the trap. Yes, they knock out the support, but it actually gives him a flank opportunity when he re-enters the fight. Crucial in that fight is that Sencux was trapped in the Dragon Pit rather, but he flashed out, and then Elements kind of locked themselves into a cage with some very angry men. Took him down. Splyce looking to finish.
Very, very angry men. Splyce, in the 47th minute, set themselves up on the last remaining Nexus turret. They burn it down thanks to the second Dragon that allowed them to win. Yamato Cannon is celebrating as Splyce hold on to the safe spot in 7th.